The 25th specialist told the Alpha Queen that her daughter might never speak again. 3 minutes later, I found the drawing every expert had missed. It was hidden beneath the princess's dressing table, pressed into a narrow space between the carved wood and the marble floor. The paper showed a little girl trapped inside a burning room. A tall woman stood outside the door wearing a red ring. Above her, the child had drawn a silver bell split down the middle. At the bottom of the page were 4 words. "If I speak, Mama dies." I was still holding the drawing when the woman with the red ring entered the nursery. Lady Odelia Arden was the dead queen consort's older sister and the royal household's most trusted guardian. Her crimson gown made no sound against the carpet. The fox-shaped signet on her hand caught the morning light. The same red ring appeared in the princess's drawing. Odelia looked at the paper in my hands. Then she smiled. "What did you find, little maid?" I folded the drawing before she could see it clearly. "Dust, my lady." Her eyes moved to the empty space beneath the dressing table. Dust does not usually require both hands. Before I could answer, Alpha Queen Seraphina returned from the adjoining consultation room. Every person in the nursery became still. Seraphina Arden had ruled the northern kingdoms for 9 years. She had ended a border war, broken 3 rebellions, and negotiated peace with alphas who considered compromise a weakness. Portraits showed her wearing a crown and armor, one hand resting on the silver sword of her bloodline. They never showed what grief had done to her eyes. Her black hair was braided away from her face. A dark military coat covered her tall frame. She wore no crown inside her daughter's rooms, but no one could mistake her for anything other than a queen. "The consultation is finished," she said. Her voice was low and controlled. It carried the pressure of an alpha command without using one. The 25th specialist followed her into the room. Dr. Corin Vale was an elderly beta, famous for treating soldiers who had lost speech after battle. He closed his leather case with careful hands. "Princess Elia's throat is healthy," he said. "Her hearing is excellent. Her silence does not come from physical damage I can identify. Further examinations may cause more distress than benefit." Odelia sighed. "Then we have wasted another week." The queen's gaze sharpened. "My daughter's pain is not a waste of your time." Odelia lowered her head. "Of course not, Your Majesty. I only meant that the founding ceremony is 6 days away. The council will use Elia's condition against you." I knew the law. Everyone in the kingdom did. On her 9th birthday, the royal heir had to ring the founding bell and speak the 4 lines of the succession oath before the High Council. If she could not, the council could appoint a regent to govern in her name. Elia had not spoken for 14 months. 14 months since the East Nursery burned. 14 months since Queen Consort Alina died carrying her daughter through the smoke. Seraphina survived because she had been inspecting the southern guard posts that night. By the time she returned, her wife was dead, and her 8-year-old daughter had stopped speaking. 25 healers, physicians, tutors, and mind specialists had tried to bring Elia's voice back. None had asked why the child kept hiding her drawings. The queen noticed the folded paper in my hand. "What is that?" Odelia answered before I could. "The maid found rubbish beneath the furniture." Seraphina looked at me. "Is that true?" I had worked in the palace for 11 months. Long enough to understand that servants survived by keeping their heads lowered and their opinions invisible. Omegas survived by becoming even smaller. But the 4 words on the drawing felt heavier than my fear. "No, Your Majesty." Odelia's scent sharpened. I crossed the nursery and offered the paper to the queen. Seraphina opened it. For one terrible second, nothing changed in her face. Then her fingers tightened around the edges. "Where did you find this?" "Fixed beneath the dressing table with blue wax." She looked toward her daughter. Elia sat beside the window with a sketchbook on her knees. She was small for her age, with her mother's golden brown hair and Seraphina's pale gray eyes. She watched us without moving. Seraphina walked toward her, then stopped several steps away. "Elia, did you make this?" The princess stared at the red ring in the drawing. Her fingers tapped the sketchbook twice. I had heard that sound before. Every morning, while I cleaned the nursery, Elia tapped objects in groups, once for no, twice for yes, 3 times when a question frightened her. No specialist had recorded it, because she stopped whenever they entered. "She means yes," I said. Everyone turned toward me. Odelia's expression hardened. "You are a maid, not an interpreter." "No," I said carefully. "But the princess taps twice when cook asks whether she wants honey. Once when the governess offers the blue dress. She tapped 3 times yesterday when Captain Thorne mentioned the bell tower." The queen looked at Elia again. "1 for no," Serafina said. 2 for yes. Is that correct?" Elia tapped twice. The queen's breath caught. 14 months of silence had taught everyone to speak around the child as though she were not listening. One observant question changed the entire room. Dr. Vale slowly reopened his case and removed his notes. "Your Highness, do you understand everything we say?" 2 taps. "Are you unable to make words?" 1 tap. Odelia moved closer. "Perhaps she does not understand the question." Elia's fingers stopped. I saw the exact moment fear entered her body. Her shoulders rose. Her pencil rolled from her hand. Serafina saw it too. She placed herself between Odelia and the child. "Everyone leave the nursery!" Odelia stared at her. "Serafina, the council." Now. The command struck the room like a closing door. Dr. Vale left first. The governess followed. Odelia remained long enough to look at me once. The threat in her expression was so quiet I might have imagined it. Then she left. I moved toward the door as well. "Not you," the queen said. I stopped. Serafina waited until the door closed behind everyone else. Then she lowered herself to one knee in front of Elia. "Little star, are you afraid to speak?" Elia did not tap. Her eyes moved toward the door Odelia had used. I took a clean sheet of paper from the writing desk and drew 2 circles. Inside the first, I placed a simple smiling face. Inside the second, a frightened one. I set the paper on the carpet and backed away. "You do not need to make a sound," I said. "You can point, tap, draw, or do nothing. All 4 are answers." Elia looked at me for a long time. Then she touched the frightened face. Serafina's hands curled against her knees. "Are you afraid someone will hurt you?" Elia shook her head. "Someone else?" 2 taps. "Me?" The pencil in Elia's hand snapped. Serafina went completely still. I had seen dominant alphas angry before. Their scents filled rooms, their voices grew heavier, and everyone beneath them paid the price. Serafina did none of those things. She pulled every trace of her instinct inward, so her daughter would not feel it. "No one will hurt me because you speak," she said. Elia grabbed another sheet of paper. Her hand moved quickly. A black crown, a red ring, a silver bell. Then a line passing through Serafina's chest. She pushed the drawing away and covered her ears. The queen reached toward her, then stopped. "May I hold you?" Elia did not move for several seconds. Then she leaned forward. Serafina gathered her daughter carefully. The child buried her face against the dark military coat. No sound left either of them, but grief filled the room more completely than any cry could have. I looked away. "Maid," the queen said after a moment. "Mara Ellison, Your Majesty. How long have you understood her taps?" 9 days. Her head lifted. "Why did you tell no one?" "I told the senior governess. She said servants were not permitted to invent symptoms." The air became colder. "Her name? Please do not punish her yet. Why would you protect someone who ignored you? Because if people realize we found a way to communicate, whoever frightened Elia may change their plan." Serafina studied me differently after that. Not as a maid, not yet as someone she trusted, as a variable she had underestimated. "What do you see in the drawing?" she asked. I knelt near the paper without entering Elia's space. "More than one picture." The queen frowned. I held the sheet toward the window. Morning light passed through the thin paper. Beneath the visible image were faint blue lines, forming a second design. Princess Elia layered the drawing, I said. The fire and the woman were made first. The bell was added later with a different pigment. Why does that matter? Because this blue contains powdered night glass. It looks ordinary in daylight, but under moonlight it reflects silver. Palace restorers used it to hide measurements beneath ceremonial murals. How does a nursery maid know that? I trained at the Royal Academy of Art Conservation for 4 years. Then why are you cleaning rooms? The familiar shame rose inside me. My designation was recorded after my final examination. The Academy did not allow unmated Omegas to work alone in royal archives. My scholarship ended. Seraphina's eyes turned dangerous. That regulation was repealed 2 years ago. The Academy still calls it a safety recommendation. They will stop. That does not help Elia now. The Queen accepted the correction. I pointed toward the hidden lines. This is part of a floor plan. The bell is not only a symbol. It marks a location. Elia lifted her face from her mother's shoulder. I drew a simple tower beside the 2 choice circles.
The founding bell? 3 taps? Fear.
Something beneath the bell. 2 taps. Seraphina looked at the cracked silver bell in the drawing. The tower was sealed after the fire. I examined the blue wax that had held the paper beneath the table. This wax comes from the Royal Archive. Someone has been giving Elia materials from a restricted room. Or she has been taken there. The idea made the child tremble. Seraphina tightened her hold without trapping her. No more questions, she said. Elia reached for my sleeve before I could move away. Her small fingers pressed twice against my wrist. Stay. The Queen looked at her daughter's hand, then at me. For the next 6 days, you will remain near Princess Elia. As her maid? As the person she chose. The household will object. The household is not the Queen. I thought of Odelia's red ring. That may be the problem. Seraphina's gaze sharpened. I unfolded the hidden drawing again and placed it beside Odelia's fox-shaped signet from memory. The shape was similar, but one detail bothered me. Elia had drawn the fox facing left. The ring I had seen on Odelia's hand faced right. The woman in this picture may not be Lady Odelia, I said. Why? Because Elia does not draw reflections correctly by accident. I turned the page toward the nursery mirror. Inside the glass, the fox faced right. The entire drawing had been reversed. The fire, the door, the woman, and the bell were not shown as Elia had seen them. They were shown as someone had seen them while watching Elia through a mirror. The Queen rose slowly. On the wall opposite the child's bed hung an antique mirror that had survived the East nursery fire. Seraphina crossed the room and tore it from its hooks. Behind the glass was a narrow black opening. Someone had been watching the princess from inside the wall. Seraphina reached into the opening. Don't, I said. Her hand stopped. I lifted the lamp from Elia's bedside table and held it near the gap. A thread stretched across the darkness at wrist height. It was almost invisible. The Queen followed it with her eyes. A warning line? Or a trigger? I used the broken end of Elia's pencil to lift the thread. It ran downward through the wall and disappeared behind the baseboard. Seraphina touched the communication stone at her collar. Captain Thorne, bring 2 guards to the princess's nursery. No one else. Elia tightened her grip on my sleeve. We are leaving this room, the Queen said. She carried her daughter into the adjoining library. I followed with the hidden drawing. Seraphina closed the door but did not lock it. Why not seal the floor? I asked. Because whoever built that passage knows the palace better than my guards. A lockdown would tell them we discovered it and trap Elia inside a system they may control. It was the first decision she made that surprised me. Most alphas responded to fear by closing doors. Seraphina opened an escape route instead. Captain Talia Thorne arrived less than a minute later. She was a broad-shouldered beta with a narrow scar beside her mouth and 20 years of service to the crown. 2 guards accompanied her. Neither wore household colors. The queen showed her the opening. Talia examined the thread without touching it. Alarm powder. If broken, it stains the intruder's hand for 12 hours. Can you trace the passage? Serafina asked. Without alerting whoever uses it? Yes, but I need time. You have 1 hour before the household notices the nursery is closed. Talia looked at me. Who found it? Mara did, the queen said. The captain's expression revealed exactly what she thought of an Omega Maid standing inside a royal investigation. Serafina noticed. If you intend to underestimate her, she said, do it after you explain why she discovered in 3 minutes what palace security missed for 14 months. Talia lowered her eyes. Understood. The queen moved Elia to her private apartments on the western side of the palace. The rooms had no hidden service passages, and only one guarded entrance. Elia chose the smallest bedroom, then pushed a chair against the wall so she could see the door from her bed. I understood that too. No one who felt safe arranged furniture like that. Serafina ordered food, fresh clothes, and drawing materials from unopened stores. She personally inspected every item before allowing it near her daughter. Elia refused breakfast. The queen offered porridge, fruit, bread, and honey. The child turned her face away from each one. She ate yesterday, Serafina said quietly. The concern beneath her control made her look less like a queen, and more like a mother who had spent 14 months failing to reach her child. I placed 4 blank cards beside the tray. On the first, I drew the porridge. On the second, bread. On the third, fruit. On the fourth, an empty plate. Elia pointed to the empty plate. Then she drew a small bottle above every food item. Serafina's face changed. You think something is inside the food? 2 taps. All food? 1 tap. Elia drew a crescent moon on the bottle. I remembered the nursery schedule, her sleeping tonic. The queen turned toward the servant who had delivered the tray. The young beta went white. I only brought what the kitchen prepared. Leave it and go, Serafina said. The servant fled. Dr. Vale returned under guard. He tested the tonic with 3 reagents. The first remained clear, the second turned pale yellow, the third became black. Silence root, he said. I had heard of the plant. In small amounts, healers used it to reduce swelling in damaged throats. Too much caused burning pain whenever the patient tried to speak. Serafina stared at the bottle. How long? The dose is low. Repeated nightly exposure could keep her throat sensitive, without leaving permanent injury. 14 months? Dr. Vale's face tightened. Possibly. Elia watched her mother. Serafina moved toward her, then knelt again. Little star. Did speaking hurt? 2 taps.
Did someone tell you the pain was a warning?
2 taps. Elia drew the red ring beside the black crown. Who prescribed the tonic? I asked. Dr. Vale looked toward the door. The order carries the seal of the royal physician, but the formula is copied from an older record. Whose record? Queen Consort Alina's. She used silence root after smoke damaged her lungs during the fire. The dead queen's treatment had been turned into a weapon against her daughter. Serafina stood. No one touches the kitchen staff, she told Captain Thorne through the communication stone. Observe everyone who handled the tonic. Let them believe the routine continues. Dr. Vale replaced the poisoned liquid with harmless mint water and resealed the bottle. Her throat should improve within 2 days, he said. But removing the pain will not remove the fear attached to it. Do not pressure her to test her voice. I won't, Serafina said. Elia looked at her mother, as though waiting to see whether the promise would survive the founding ceremony. That afternoon, the High Council demanded an emergency meeting. Lady Vera Sol stood at the head of the council delegation. She was an aging alpha with white hair, a gold cane, and no patience for ceremony. Unlike Odelia, she did not pretend concern softened her purpose. The law gives us 6 days, Vera told the queen. If Princess Elia cannot speak the oath, the council must name a regent. The law says may name a regent, Serafina replied. Not must. The southern lords are already questioning whether grief has made you reckless. Canceling 25 consultations and hiding the princess in your rooms will strengthen them. I cancelled nothing. The 25th specialist completed his examination. Vera glanced at me and replaced himself with a maid. I stood beside Elia's chair holding her sketchbook. The council members looked at my grey uniform, my Omega collar pin, and the ink staining my fingertips. The dismissal in their faces was familiar. Serafina did not raise her voice. Mara Ellison identified a communication system, discovered a hidden surveillance passage, and found evidence that my daughter was being poisoned. If any council member achieved more before lunch, I welcome the report. No one answered. Lady Vera studied me with sudden interest. Poisoned by whom? That remains under investigation. Then Princess Elia is in active danger. The law allows the council to move the heir to neutral protection. Elia's pencil stopped. I felt fear move through her before I saw it. The queen placed one hand on the table, not on her daughter. If the council attempts to remove Elia without her consent, the law will be the least of your concerns. Alpha pressure filled the room. Several council members lowered their eyes. Lady Vera did not. Threatening the council is precisely the behavior your enemies expect. Then disappoint them by leaving peacefully. Vera's gaze shifted to Elia. Your Highness, do you wish to remain with your mother? Elia tapped twice. The old Alpha's expression altered. Do you understand the succession oath? 2 taps. Will you speak it in 6 days? 3 taps. Fear. Vera turned toward me. You interpret 3 taps as fear. The princess established the meaning herself. Then ask what she fears. No. The council chamber seemed to shrink. Vera raised one eyebrow. You refuse an order from the High Council? Elia has answered enough questions for people who entered without asking whether she wanted to be examined. I expected Serafina to correct me. Instead, the queen opened the chamber door. The meeting is over. Lady Vera left last. As she passed me, she spoke quietly. Protecting a frightened child from questions feels kind. It can also protect the person who taught her to fear answers. I watched the red stone set into the head of her gold cane. In Elia's drawing, the woman's ring might not have been a ring at all. It might have been the circular end of Vera's cane reflected in a mirror. After the council departed, Serafina closed the door. You believe Vera is involved? I believe Elia's pictures communicate through shapes, not labels. We decided the red circle was a ring because Lady Odelia entered wearing one. Vera gains the strongest claim to the regency if Elia fails the oath. Which makes her obvious! Obvious people still commit crimes, and grieving families still trust the wrong relatives. The words left me before I could soften them. Serafina's expression closed. You mean Odelia? I mean we should not decide before Elia can show us. The queen walked toward the window. Beyond it, the founding bell tower rose above the palace roofs. Alina trusted her sister completely. Odelia raised Elia during our first border campaign. After the fire, she slept outside the nursery for 3 months. Then perhaps the red ring represents someone else. You think I am defending her. I think love can make evidence painful. Serafina looked at me. Is that what happened at the academy? I had not expected her to ask. My dismissal. You said they called discrimination a safety recommendation. The academy director was my father's closest friend. He paid my application fee when my family could not afford it. He also signed the order removing me from the Royal Archive after my designation became public. Did your father forgive him? Immediately. He said gratitude required understanding. And you? I think gratitude does not turn harm into kindness. The answer remained between us. Serafina looked toward Elia. No, she said. It does not. Captain Thorne returned at sunset. The passage behind the mirror descended through the wall, crossed beneath 3 rooms, and ended inside the abandoned east wing. Someone had used it recently. Fresh boot marks disturbed the dust. Blue wax covered one stone ledge. At the final junction, the passage divided. One branch led toward the royal archive. The other ended beneath the founding bell. "Did you find the person using it?" Serafina asked. "No, but we found this." Talia placed a strip of crimson silk on the table. It had torn from the lining of a formal gown. Odelia wore crimson that morning. Lady Vera wore it during every council ceremony. Half the royal household wore the color of the crown. "Convenient evidence," I said. Talia's gaze narrowed. "You believe it was planted?" "I believe whoever watched Elia understood that a servant would eventually find the passage. No servant found it for 14 months. Then why leave an alarm thread instead of sealing the opening?" The captain looked at the queen. "To learn when someone discovered it," Serafina said. "The thread had not protected the passage. It had turned our discovery into a message. Somewhere inside the palace, the person who frightened Elia now knew we were listening." That night, I slept on a narrow couch outside the princess's temporary bedroom. At least I tried. Every movement in the corridor pulled me awake. Every change in the guard's footsteps sounded like someone approaching the hidden mirror. Shortly after midnight, the bedroom door opened. Elia stood barefoot in the dim light, holding her sketchbook. "Bad dream?" I asked. She tapped once. "Do you need your mother?" One tap. "Do you want me to follow you?" Two taps. She led me to Serafina's study. The queen had fallen asleep at her desk beside a map of the hidden passage. Without the military coat and controlled posture, she looked exhausted. A strand of black hair had escaped across her cheek. Her injured-looking stillness made something inside me soften before I could stop it. Elia placed a finger against her lips, though she made no sound. Then she crawled beneath the queen's desk. Taped to the underside was another drawing. I removed it carefully. This picture showed 25 faceless figures surrounding Elia's bed. Behind them stood a woman with a red circle in one hand and a small blue bottle in the other. Every specialist had been drawn in black. The 25th was drawn in silver. Elia pointed toward Dr. Vale's figure, then toward the word safe. "You trust him?" Two taps. She pointed toward the woman behind the specialists. "Did she choose the others?" Two taps. "Was she always in the room?" One tap. "Did she watch from the passage?" Two taps. Serafina woke without moving. Her eyes opened, instantly alert. I showed her the drawing. She examined the 25 figures. "Odelia selected the first 12 specialists," she said. "Vera recommended the next 6. I chose the rest." Dr. Vale came after an unsigned letter was left on my desk. "Who could enter this study?" "Odelia, Captain Thorne, my secretary, and Elia." The child tapped twice. Serafina stared at her. "You left the letter!" Two taps. Elia had not been waiting helplessly for rescue. She had found the one specialist whose tests could expose the poison and guided him toward the palace without speaking a word. I smiled at her. That was very clever. For the first time, pride appeared in Elia's eyes. Then the window exploded inward. A crossbow bolt struck the desk where the queen's head had rested seconds earlier. Serafina moved before the broken glass touched the floor. She pulled Elia from beneath the desk and covered her with her body. I dropped behind the stone cabinet as a second bolt entered through the window. The palace alarm sounded. Captain Thorne and 4 guards reached the study within seconds. Talia closed the iron shutters while another guard searched the balcony. "Shooter on the archive roof," someone called. "Moving east." Serafina lifted Elia into her arms. "Take the inner corridor." The child reached toward me. I followed them into the dressing room as guards sealed the study. Elia's entire body shook, but she made no sound. Her hand pressed against her throat, as though the silence itself had become painful. "You are safe," Serafina whispered. Elia looked toward the wall. There was no mirror, no opening. Still, she stared as though someone might appear through the stone. I took a sheet of paper from the queen's dressing table and drew 3 figures holding hands inside a circle. Outside it, I drew a crossbow. Elia added a thick wall around the circle. Then she drew a fourth figure inside it. Dr. Vale. She thinks he is in danger, I said. Captain Thorne touched her communication stone. Send guards to Dr. Vale's quarters. No one answered. The physician had disappeared. The bolt in the study contained no poison. It had been fired from a mechanism fixed to the archive roof and triggered remotely when the desk lamp went out. The shooter had not needed to remain nearby. The attack was designed to appear immediate while the person responsible moved somewhere else. Dr. Vale, I said. Serafina looked at Talia. Search the route beneath the bell. The captain hesitated. If the passage is trapped, then do not enter it blindly. Seal the exits and bring the palace architects. No one argued. Elia pulled the hidden drawing toward her. She circled the silver figure, then drew 3 short lines beneath his feet. 3 floors below? I asked. 1 tap. 3 doors? 1 tap. 3 bells? 2 taps. The palace had only 1 founding bell, but the old architectural plans showed 2 smaller warning bells inside the tower. They had been removed after a lightning strike years earlier. I opened the tower map. 3 circular chambers appeared beneath the main bell. The lowest had been marked storage and sealed for decades. He is in the 3rd bell chamber, I said. Talia sent a team through the public tower entrance, while Serafina studied the map. How would Elia know that room exists? The child drew the mirror again. Someone had taken her through the passage, perhaps many times. Dr. Vale was found unconscious in the lowest chamber. His medical case was missing, and blue wax sealed his mouth. He was alive. Beside him, the guards discovered 12 empty bottles of silence root and copies of every report written by the previous specialists. The reports had been altered. Each original contained at least 1 observation suggesting Elia understood speech and communicated nonverbally. In the official copies, those lines were removed. Notes about throat inflammation disappeared. Questions about her sleeping tonic were rewritten as recommendations to increase the dose. Someone had not fooled 25 specialists. Someone had controlled what each specialist was allowed to see. Dr. Vale woke near dawn. He remembered entering the archive after receiving a message supposedly written by me. A woman in a servant's cloak struck him from behind. Why would you obey a message from a maid you met once? Captain Thorne asked. Because it mentioned night glass pigment, he said. The same substance appeared beneath Princess Elia's fingernails during my examination. I thought Mara had found the source. Every gaze turned toward me. Blue wax, I said. She uses it to hide drawings. Dr. Vale shook his head. Wax would remain on the surface. The particles were inside the cuticle. She has been touching powdered night glass. I looked at the hidden lines in the first drawing. Night glass was beautiful, but dangerous before it was sealed into paint. Long exposure caused dizziness, confusion, and a metallic taste. The symptoms could have made Elia's fear and silence worse. Where is night glass stored? Serafina asked. The Royal Archive Restoration Room, I said. The passage leads there. The Queen ordered the archive closed, but again, she refused a palace-wide lockdown. Servants who wanted to leave were allowed through inspected gates. Guests were informed of a maintenance emergency. Every person departing was quietly recorded. You are letting the suspect escape, Lady Vera said when she arrived. I am letting the suspect believe escape remains possible, Serafina replied. The old council leader looked at me. Your idea? The Queen's. Vera seemed disappointed. I prefer servants who take credit when it will irritate nobles. I am discovering that the palace contains many preferences about how servants should behave. Her mouth almost curved. Serafina noticed the exchange. Something unreadable passed through her eyes. It took me an embarrassing moment to recognize jealousy. The realization should not have warmed me. It did. By sunrise, the restoration room had been searched. 1 jar of night glass was missing. The inventory book showed that I had signed it out 11 months earlier, on my first day at the palace. My signature was perfect. The date was correct. The authorization carried my academy identification number, a number no palace servant should have known. Captain Thorne placed the record on the table between us. Can you prove this was forged? No. Did you know Princess Elia before you entered palace service? No. Did you apply specifically for the East Nursery? I applied to the archive. The household office reassigned me. Who interviewed you? I remembered a screen, 3 unseen voices, and a woman wearing a fox-shaped ring who never gave her name. Lady Odelia. Talia's expression hardened. She placed you near the princess. Or someone used her authority. Your signature released the night glass. A message bearing your name brought Dr. Vale into the passage. You discovered evidence no one else could interpret. Which is exactly why framing me is useful. The captain turned to the queen. Until we verify her history, Mara should be held outside the royal apartments. Elia struck the table twice. Talia looked toward her. The child took my hand and pulled me beside her chair. Serafina did not use her daughter's fear as the only answer. Mara remains under observation, she said. Inside these rooms, where Elia can see her. Your Majesty, you may place guards at both doors. You may inspect every object she touches. You may question her, with counsel present. You will not isolate my daughter from the first person she trusts, because someone manufactured a signature. Talia lowered her head. Yes, Your Majesty. When the captain left, I released the breath I had been holding. You should not trust me, because Elia does. I don't. The answer surprised me. Serafina came closer, stopping beyond reach. I trust the choices you have made, while no one was rewarding you. You concealed Elia's communication, until you understood the danger. You stopped me from touching the alarm thread. You found Dr. Vale before the person who took him could finish the plan. I could have arranged all of those things. Yes, that does not concern you. It terrifies me. For the first time, the Queen allowed me to see the fear beneath her authority. I buried my wife because I trusted the wrong person, she said. Every instinct I have tells me to remove every uncertainty from Elia's life. But a cage made from fear is still a cage. I will not call it protection simply because I built it. Her honesty reached somewhere my defenses were not prepared to guard. What do you need from me? I asked. The truth, even when it makes me angry, especially then. And what do I receive? Serafina's gaze held mine. The same. I believed her enough to be frightened by it. We reconstructed my first day at the palace. Odelia had interviewed me, but the employment order was issued from the office of Royal Secretary Irena Holt. Irena had served Serafina for 9 years and managed access to the private study. She was also the only person besides Elia who could have left the anonymous letter recommending Dr. Vale. The secretary arrived willingly for questioning. She was a quiet beta in her 40s, who wore plain gray dresses and remembered every appointment without writing it down. When shown the forged inventory record, she recognized the paper. This came from the old household ledger, Irena said. Lady Odelia kept it after the East Wing closed. Did you send Dr. Vale's name to the Queen? Talia asked. Irena looked at Elia. Yes. Serafina's face hardened. Why anonymously? Because the last physician who questioned the tonic disappeared from the palace payroll. I did not know whom to trust. You could have come to me. Your Majesty, every private meeting on your schedule was reported to the household office. Every letter passed through Lady Odelia's staff. After the fire, you gave her complete authority over Elia's care. The truth hurt Serafina because it was hers. She did not punish the person who spoke it. Why Mara? I asked. Why was I placed in the nursery? Irena's eyes dropped. I altered the assignment. You? I saw your academy history and your knowledge of restoration pigments. I hoped you would notice what I could not prove. Anger rose through me. You placed me beside a threatened child without warning me. Yes. You allowed someone to build evidence against me. I did not know about the inventory record. But you knew enough to hide your own involvement. Irena accepted every word. I was afraid, she said. So was Elia. She still found a way to ask for help. The secretary looked toward the child and began to cry. Serafina dismissed her from duty pending investigation, but ordered protection rather than confinement. Irena had made a reckless choice. She had also risked herself to bring Dr. Vale into the palace. Both truths mattered. That afternoon, Elia asked to draw in the Queen's garden. 4 guards searched it first. Captain Thorne inspected the paths. Dr. Vale approved the air and food. Only then did we sit beneath a glass canopy surrounded by winter roses. Elia drew while Serafina read council reports. I prepared paper and tried not to notice how sunlight changed the Queen's severe face. "You are staring," she said without looking up. "I am evaluating the light. Is it suspicious?" "Extremely." She turned a page. "Should I arrest it?" "Question it first, with counsel present." The corner of her mouth lifted. Elia watched us. Then she drew 2 figures beneath the glass canopy. One wore a black crown. The other held a paintbrush. Between them, she drew a question mark. Heat touched my face. Serafina cleared her throat. "Your daughter is observant," I said. Terrifyingly. Elia added a small heart above the question mark. The Queen's alpha scent changed before she could contain it. Cedar, snow, and something warmer beneath both. My omega instincts answered. Serafina immediately moved farther away. "I apologize. You did nothing. My scent did. It is not an order." "No. But you are inside my guarded residence, under suspicion, and dependent on my decision to remain near Elia. That is not a free circumstance for courtship." The precision of her restraint affected me more than dominance would have. "Then we are not courting," I said. Something like disappointment crossed her face. "No. We are evaluating suspicious light." Her eyes returned to mine. "That seems safer." Elia drew a larger heart. We both pretended not to see it. Near sunset, moonlight touched the first hidden drawing. The night glass lines turned silver. What I had mistaken for a floor plan became a sequence of instructions. 3 bells, 2 mirrors, 1 fox. Beneath them appeared a date. The night of the East Nursery fire. At the edge of the page, invisible in daylight, Elia had drawn another figure carrying her through the passage. The woman wore Captain Thorne's scar. Serafina summoned Talia alone. The captain entered the garden without a weapon. She saw the silver figure and stopped walking. "You were there," the Queen said. Talia looked at Elia. The child did not hide. "Yes." The answer struck harder because it came without resistance. Serafina rose. "The official report says you reached the East Wing after Alina carried Elia outside." "The official report is false." Alpha pressure cracked through the garden. Glass panels trembled above us. Elia covered her ears. The Queen saw it and forced herself still. "Tell me everything," she said. Talia lowered herself to one knee, not in submission but so Elia could see her face. The fire began in the corridor, not the nursery. I was on the eastern stair when the alarm ropes were cut. Queen Alina entered through the service passage and carried Elia toward the bell tower. I found them at the first junction. "Why the bell tower?" I asked. Alina believed the main halls were compromised. She said someone had changed the royal guard rotation using Serafina's seal. The Queen's expression darkened. "Where did you take them?" "The 3rd chamber beneath the bell." Alina gave me Elia and returned for a metal document case. She said it contained proof. Elia's pencil moved across the page. She drew her mother walking back into black smoke. Talia's voice roughened. I tried to stop her. The passage collapsed between us. I carried Elia through the archive exit. Lady Odelia was waiting there. "Odelia knew the passage?" Serafina asked. "She said Alina had sent her. She took Elia, while I went back with the guards." When we reached the east nursery, they found Alina near the balcony. The report assumed she had carried Elia from the room. Why did you preserve that lie? Talia looked at the child. Because Elia spoke to me in the archive. She said Aunt Odelia had started the fire. Then Odelia appeared behind her and told me the princess was confused from smoke. Seraphina's face emptied. And you believed her? No. I reported it to Royal Secretary Holt. Before I could reach you, my younger brother was arrested at the southern border with forged rebel documents. Odelia offered proof of his innocence if I corrected the fire report. You chose your brother over my wife. I chose time. I believed I could free him and gather evidence. He died in custody 3 days later. By then, the report carried my signature, and Odelia controlled every witness from the East Wing. You remained captain of my guard for 14 months. Because leaving would place someone loyal to Odelia at your door. Do you expect gratitude? No. Talia removed the silver guard insignia from her coat and placed it on the ground. I expect judgment, but not until Alia is safe. The queen's hand rested near her sword. I had no right to interfere between a ruler and the captain who had hidden the truth of her wife's death. Alia did. She walked toward Talia and tapped the guard insignia twice. Seraphina looked at her daughter. You want her to keep helping? 2 taps. Do you trust her? Elia considered the question. 1 tap. Talia flinched. Then Elia drew a bridge with the captain standing in the middle. Trust was not restored. It was a path that might still be crossed. Seraphina picked up the insignia. You remain captain until the founding ceremony. After that, you will face a public inquiry. Talia bowed her head. Yes, Your Majesty. If you hide one more truth from me, no motive will protect you. Understood. Before leaving, Talia drew a key on Elia's page and placed it beneath the 3rd bell. Queen Alina gave me this, before she returned to the fire, she said. Odelia took it in the archive. It was not the shape of an ordinary key. Its handle formed a fox facing left. In a mirror, it would face right. The red ring in Elia's first picture was not jewelry. It was the fox key. Odelia had been holding it outside the burning passage. The key opened Alina's missing document case. We finally knew what the drawing showed. We still did not know where Odelia had hidden the evidence, or how to prove any of it before the council vote. That night, Seraphina stood alone on the balcony outside her rooms. I found her without a coat, letting cold rain darken her shirt. You will become ill, I said. Dr. Vale has already reached his professional limit with this family. Then come inside for his sake. She did not move. I remained beneath the doorway, where the rain could not reach me. I promoted Talia after the fire, Seraphina said. I thanked Odelia for holding my family together. I allowed Irena to carry guilt alone. Every person near Elia knew a fragment of the truth, and none trusted me enough to speak. They were threatened. So were you. You spoke anyway. Not immediately. Immediately enough to matter. She looked toward the bell tower. Alina asked me to remain at the palace that night. We argued. I believed the Southern Guard inspection was more important than her unease. She told me something inside our home felt wrong. I called it grief after her father's death. You could not know there would be a fire. No, but I taught her that my schedule mattered more than her fear. I thought of my academy director and my father's forgiveness. Love did not require pretending harm, had never happened. It also did not require accepting responsibility for every choice another person made. What would Alina say if she could see you standing in the rain, blaming yourself, instead of sleeping before the council destroys your kingdom? Seraphina glanced at me. She would say my suffering has become theatrical. I think I would have liked her. She would have liked you. There was no jealousy in her voice, only certainty. That does not make this easier, I said. What is this? The rain moved between us. Suspicious light. Her expression softened. Very suspicious. I stepped onto the balcony. Seraphina's scent reached me through the rain, cedar and winter air. She shifted away before it could surround me. "You always move back," I said. "You told me we were not courting. We are not. Then distance is appropriate. Appropriate things are often exhausting." Her eyes searched my face. "Mara, if circumstances were different, I would ask whether I could come closer. They are not different. You remain under my authority and accused of threatening my child. You believe I did not. Belief does not remove power." No alpha had ever spoken to me that way. Not as though restraint were her responsibility rather than mine. I moved beside her, leaving half an arm's length between us. "Then stand here," I said. "No closer." "Is that what you want?" "Yes." She stood with me in the rain. Our hands rested on the stone railing, close enough that our smallest fingers touched when the wind changed. Neither of us moved away. The next morning, Elia's throat no longer showed inflammation. Dr. Vale offered her warm water and asked whether she wanted to test a sound. Elia tapped once. "Then we won't," he said. The absence of disappointment made her look at him twice. We began preparing alternatives for the founding ceremony. Lady Vera argued that the succession law required the oath to be spoken. I argued that tapping was a language. Dr. Vale provided evidence that Elia understood every word. Irena found a 200-year-old case in which a wounded prince completed the oath using written cards. The council divided. Odelia remained absent. She sent a letter claiming grief had made her ill, and she could not face accusations connected to her sister's death. The humility was perfect. Too perfect. "She knows we understand the drawing," I said. Captain Thorne agreed. 3 servants left the palace yesterday, using Odelia's travel seals. She was not with them. "Then she is still inside," Seraphina said. "The palace contains 400 rooms and 12 kilometers of service corridors." Elia drew the cracked bell. Odelia had not escaped because she still needed something beneath the tower. The document case. We entered the hidden passage at noon. Talia led with 2 guards. Dr. Vale remained with Elia in the Queen's apartments, while I followed Seraphina through the opening behind the nursery mirror. The passage was barely wide enough for one person. Scratches marked the stone where Elia had been carried during the fire. Blue wax appeared at every junction. "It forms a trail," I said. "To the bell?" Seraphina asked. "No. Look at the height. The wax marks sat low enough for a child to reach." Elia had made them. She had been mapping the passage for months, leaving herself a path home. At the archive junction, we found a small bundle hidden behind a loose stone. It contained 6 drawings, half a piece of bread, a candle, and a bent metal spoon. Seraphina touched the bread without picking it up. She prepared to run. She prepared to survive, I said. One drawing showed Odelia opening the nursery mirror at night. Another showed a servant adding the blue bottle to Elia's tonic. The servant's face had been crossed out and replaced with a question mark. Odelia had never allowed the same person to deliver the poison twice. The final drawing showed the 3rd chamber. Alina's document case lay inside the cracked founding bell. Not beneath it. Inside it. We climbed toward the tower. The service route opened behind a stone panel in the lowest chamber where Dr. Vale had been found. From there, a narrow ladder rose through the center supports of the bell. At the top, moonlight entered through the tower windows. The founding bell hung above us, enormous and silent. Its silver surface carried a repaired crack from the lightning strike. I climbed the maintenance ladder, while Seraphina held it below. Near the bell's crown, my fingers found a shallow compartment concealed beneath years of dark polish. Inside was a metal case blackened by smoke. The lock had the shape of a fox. "We found it," I whispered. The tower door closed beneath us. Captain Thorne called from the stairwell. "Your Majesty, get down." Gas began flowing through the old bell pipes. It smelled sweet, almost floral. Dr. Vale's warning returned to me. Night glass dust caused confusion when inhaled. Below, one guard collapsed. Serafina pulled her shirt over her mouth and climbed toward me. The exterior hatch, I said, above the bell. Sealed. Not from inside. The old restorers needed roof access. My hands shook as I searched the metal frame. The hidden release was where my academy instructor had taught us to place it, behind the decorative fourth star. I pressed the point. Nothing happened. The gas thickened. Serafina reached me. Leave the case. It is why Alina died, and it is not worth another life. She did not take it from me. She positioned herself beneath me so I could climb higher. May I lift you? Even there, with poison entering the tower, she asked. Yes. Serafina raised me toward the hatch. I struck the fourth star with the metal case. Once. Twice. The rusted release broke. Rain and clean air rushed inside. I pushed the case through the opening, then pulled myself onto the roof. Serafina followed. Talia and the guards escaped through the lower maintenance door after breaking its lock. We crossed the sloped roof toward the western balcony. Halfway there, a figure stepped from behind the stone chimney. Lady Odelia held a crossbow aimed at my chest. Give me my sister's case, she said. Serafina moved in front of me. Odelia laughed softly. Always arriving after someone else has done the dangerous part. The queen's body became perfectly still. Alina trusted you. Alina was weak. She wanted to turn the crown into a council of servants, omegas, and frightened children. She wanted them represented. She wanted our bloodline diluted by gratitude. Odelia aimed toward the case in my hands. Inside that box are private letters and altered guard orders. Nothing a competent advocate cannot dismiss. Give it to me, and I will leave Alia untouched. You have been poisoning her for 14 months, I said. I kept her quiet. There is a difference. Not to the child who felt pain every time she tried to call for her mother. Odelia's eyes hardened. You think finding one drawing makes you important. You are an Omega maid who happened to look beneath a table. That is why you are losing, I said. You believe noticing what powerful people ignore is an accident. The crossbow shifted toward me. Serafina stepped closer to the weapon. If you fire, you will not leave this roof. If I do not, neither will you. Odelia lifted her other hand. The fox key rested inside it. Behind us, the founding bell began to move. Someone below had activated the ceremony mechanism 5 days early. The cracked silver bell swung toward the tower supports. If it rang, the vibration would collapse the damaged roof beneath all 3 of us. The first swing passed without striking. Stone cracked beneath my knees. Odelia turned toward the bell. That moment was enough. Serafina seized the crossbow and forced it upward. The bolt disappeared into the rain. Odelia twisted the weapon between them, while the bell reversed direction. I held the document case against my chest and crawled toward the western balcony. The roof dropped beneath my right hand. Captain Thorne emerged from the hatch behind the bell. Release the lower chain. One guard reached the mechanism. The chain would not move. Odelia had locked it with the fox key. The key remained in her fist. Serafina struck the crossbow from Odelia's hands. Odelia answered with a small blade from her sleeve. The queen caught her wrist, but her boot slid on the rain-covered stone. The bell swung again. This time, its edge struck the inner frame. The sound was not a clear ceremonial note. It was a wounded metallic roar that shook the entire tower. Cracks spread across the roof. The case slipped from my hands and slid toward the edge. Odelia broke free from Serafina and lunged for it. I reached it first. Her hand closed around my ankle. You should have stayed a maid, she hissed. She pulled me backward. My fingers lost the roof edge. For one breath, the city opened beneath me. Serafina caught my wrist. The sudden weight dragged her to one knee. Odelia still held my ankle. The fox key remained trapped between her fingers. Let the case fall, Serafina said. We need it. I need you alive. The bell began its third swing. I looked at the key in Odelia's hand. then at the chain mechanism behind Captain Thorne. "Talia, catch." I kicked free. Odelia lost her grip, and the fox key flew across the roof. Talia caught it. She unlocked the chain as the bell reached the highest point of its swing. 3 guards pulled together. The mechanism stopped with the bell suspended inches from the broken frame. Serafina dragged me back onto the roof. Odelia crawled toward the ledge, but Captain Thorne blocked her path. "For my brother," Talia said. Odelia smiled through the rain. "You signed the report. No council will believe you. Then they can believe the evidence your sister died protecting." Talia placed restraints around Odelia's wrists. The queen remained beside me, one hand braced against the roof. She did not touch me again until I turned my palm upward. Then her fingers closed around mine. "Are you injured?" "Only offended." "By what?" "She said I should have stayed a maid." Serafina looked toward Odelia. "She has never understood the difference between service and smallness." "You did once." The queen met my eyes. "Yes." She did not ask me to make the truth gentler, because she had saved my life. The metal case opened with the fox key. Inside were Queen Alina's letters, the original guard schedules, medical orders for silence route, and a list of payments connecting Odelia to 6 council members. One document outlined the entire plan. The fire was supposed to kill Serafina and place Elia under Odelia's regency. Alina discovered the altered guard orders and moved her daughter through the service passage. She died retrieving the evidence before Odelia could destroy it. When Serafina returned alive, Odelia changed her strategy. She taught Elia that speaking had caused the fire. She added silence root to the child's tonic, so every attempted word produced pain. She controlled the specialists, altered their notes, and waited for the founding ceremony. If Elia failed the oath, Lady Vera would technically become regent. But the payments showed that 6 council members planned to remove Vera within a month and appoint Odelia as the heir's maternal guardian. Lady Vera read the documents twice. "I have spent 40 years believing no one could manipulate me," she said. "Apparently arrogance remains educational." "Will the council accept written testimony?" Serafina asked. "The honest members will. The purchased members will claim the papers are forged. Odelia's advocates will argue that Captain Thorne altered the case to protect herself. Then prosecute them separately." "We will. But the succession vote is still in 5 days. The law does not disappear because we found a criminal." The queen's scent turned cold. "My daughter is not performing recovery for the council. Then prepare for a regency challenge." "Let them challenge." Elia had entered the room without anyone noticing. She carried a new drawing. It showed the founding bell, the council table, and herself standing between them. Above her head were 4 empty boxes. The 4 lines of the oath. "You want to attend?" I asked. 2 taps. Serafina knelt. "You do not have to speak. We found another legal path." Elia drew a mouth, then a key beside it. Her voice belonged to her. She wanted the choice to use it. Dr. Vale created a careful plan. No public rehearsals. No repeated demands. Elia could stop at any moment. She began with breath, then humming, then a single sound made while the room was empty except for her mother. I waited outside. When the door opened, Serafina was crying. Elia had not spoken a word. She had laughed. The sound lasted less than a second. It changed the palace. Servants in the corridor covered their mouths. Captain Thorne turned toward the window. Dr. Vale sat down without pretending his knees required rest. No one applauded. No one asked Elia to do it again. The next morning, she made the sound for water. That evening, she whispered the first half of my name. "Ma." I nearly dropped the drawing board. Serafina looked up from across the room. Elia pointed at me and tried again. "Mara." The word was rough and quiet. It was also entirely hers. I lowered myself to the floor because my legs stopped working. "Yes," I whispered. "I'm here." Elia touched my cheek, then drew a crown above my head. "Absolutely not," I said. The child smiled. Serafina laughed. It was a deeper sound than Elia's, surprised and warm. I looked at her. She looked at me. The guarded space between us changed. Later that night, after Elia slept, Serafina found me in the restoration room, sealing the night glass drawings beneath protective glass. "You should rest," she said. "You have said that 4 times. You have ignored it 4 times. Consistency is important." She stood across the work table. "The academy director has been removed pending review. Every Omega dismissed under the safety recommendation will receive an offer to return with compensation." My brush stopped. "You did not need to do that for me. I did not do it for you. I did it because the policy was wrong. It was the correct answer. Thank you. Will you return to the academy? I don't know. When this is over, you will have choices. The archive position, restoration funding, a recommendation to any academy in the kingdom. None will depend on remaining here. You are planning my escape from you. I am removing the price from staying." I set down the brush. "And if I stay anyway?" Serafina's control slipped. Cedar and winter air warmed the room. "Then, I will ask whether circumstances have changed." "Have they?" "Not yet. You remain employed inside my household until the ceremony. Appropriate things are exhausting." Painfully, I walked around the table. The queen did not move. "What if I am not asking you to court me? What are you asking?" "Whether I can stand closer." Her eyes darkened. "Yes." I stopped in front of her. Our bodies did not touch. "What if I want your hand?" She held it out, palm upward. I placed my fingers inside hers. Alpha warmth moved through me. Not a command, not a claim, a question she continued asking by keeping her grip loose. "And if I wanted more?" I asked. "I would ask you to wait until you can leave, without losing Alia, your work, or your safety." "That is extremely inconvenient. I am suffering too. You hide it well. Years of royal training." I rose onto my toes and pressed my mouth briefly against her cheek. Serafina stopped breathing. "That was not courtship," I said. "What was it?" "An evaluation. And your findings? Suspicious." I returned to the drawings, before dignity abandoned both of us. The founding ceremony began beneath a clear winter sky. Thousands of people filled the palace square. The High Council sat on a raised platform beneath the silver bell. Odelia remained in custody, but her 6 purchased allies occupied their seats and wore expressions of injured innocence. Serafina arrived in black armor and a simple crown. Elia walked beside her, wearing silver and blue. I followed several steps behind, in a formal gray dress, chosen by the princess. The crowd expected a broken child, a grieving queen, and a constitutional crisis. They did not expect Elia to carry her sketchbook. Lady Vera opened the ceremony. "Princess Elia Arden, on the 9th year of your life, the council asks whether you understand the duty of succession. You may answer by voice, writing, or established sign." Murmurs spread through the square. The purchased council members rose. "The law requires speech," one declared. Vera struck her gold cane against the platform. "The law requires an oath. It does not require your preferred method of hearing it. Sit down." The man remained standing. This alteration proves the queen has intimidated the council. Elia's breathing changed. Serafina did not touch her. "Do you want to leave?" she asked quietly. Elia tapped once. "Do you want me beside you?" 2 taps. The queen remained where her daughter chose. Elia opened the sketchbook. 4 pages displayed the 4 lines of the oath in her own handwriting. She turned the first page toward the crowd. "I guard the people before the throne." The second, "I speak truth before comfort." The third, "I accept counsel without surrendering conscience." The fourth, "I hold power only while it protects the powerless." The square became silent. Lady Vera bowed. "The oath is witnessed." One purchased councilman stepped forward. A servant may have written those pages. The child has demonstrated nothing. Serafina's hand moved toward her sword. Elia touched her wrist. The queen stopped. The princess turned toward the councilman. Her first word was quiet. The speaking horns carried it across the square anyway. I. The man lost color. Elia looked at the crowd, then at her mother. Wrote. Each word required effort. No one moved. Serafina's eyes filled. Line. The crowd did not cheer. Not yet. They waited, because the child had taught them that listening was not the same as demanding more. Elia opened the hidden drawing. Aunt Odelia started the fire, she said. This time, the square erupted. Lady Vera raised her cane and called for silence. Captain Thorne brought the document case onto the platform. Dr. Vale presented the altered medical records. Irena Holt read the original guard orders. One by one, the purchased council members attempted to leave. The palace guard stopped them. Odelia's advocates claimed the evidence was manufactured. Then Elia showed the drawings she had made across 14 months. Each contained a date, a location, and a detail later confirmed by the passage, tonic records, or document case. The drawings were not decoration around a shocking confession. They were the record everyone had failed to recognize, because they expected testimony to sound like an adult voice. Lady Vera called the vote. The 6 compromised members were suspended pending trial. The remaining council confirmed Elia's oath unanimously. Serafina retained the crown. No regent was appointed. Only then did the crowd cheer. Elia covered her ears. Serafina asked, "May I?" The princess nodded. The Alpha Queen lifted her daughter and carried her away from the noise. I followed until we reached the private archway beneath the platform. Elia looked over her mother's shoulder. "Mara," she said. I stopped. The child held out her hand. "Come." One word became two. Two became an invitation. I took her hand. Together, we left the ceremony before anyone could ask the princess to perform another miracle. Odelia's trial lasted 7 weeks. The document case proved conspiracy, attempted murder, falsification of royal orders, and the poisoning of the air. Captain Thorne testified publicly about her false report and accepted responsibility for it. Her brother's forged arrest records were found among Odelia's accounts. The court sentenced Odelia to life imprisonment in a northern fortress with no household authority, private guards, or access to Elia. The 6 council members who accepted her payments lost their titles and faced separate trials. Lady Vera replaced them with temporary representatives, chosen from the regions they had betrayed. 2 were betas. 1 was an Omega physician. The Southern Lords complained until Vera invited them to explain which law required corruption to remain dominated by alphas. They became quiet. Captain Thorne was removed as head of the Royal Guard for concealing evidence. Serafina did not erase her service or excuse her failure. Talia accepted a lower position training palace investigators in coercion recognition and witness protection. Trust did not return because one confession demanded it. It returned in small, verifiable pieces. Irena Holt resigned as royal secretary. She later joined the independent commission, reviewing the palace's treatment of servants and lower designation employees. Before leaving, she apologized to me without asking for forgiveness. I did not give it immediately. I did give her the chance to earn it. Dr. Vale became the 25th specialist, credited in the official history, though he rejected the word specialist whenever reporters used it. I identified a plant, he said. Mara identified a language. Elia saved herself long before either of us understood the danger. The first 24 specialists were invited to review their original reports beside the altered copies. 17 came. Several cried when they saw what had been removed. 3 admitted they had noticed inconsistencies but remained silent because Lady Odelia controlled royal appointments. Serafina did not punish honest mistakes. She did remove every person who had chosen career protection over reporting possible harm to a child. The palace released a public account of the investigation. It did not publish Elia's private medical details or every drawing. The princess selected 6 images she wanted displayed. The rest entered a sealed archive controlled by her, not the crown. Her voice returned unevenly. Some mornings, Elia spoke in complete sentences. On difficult days, she used taps, drawings, or written cards. No one called those days failures. Dr. Vale explained to the household that communication was not a staircase she had to climb only once. Safety changed from hour to hour. Her choices would be respected with it. The first person dismissed for saying the future queen should try harder was the senior governess who had ignored my original report. Ilia chose her replacement herself. She selected a quiet beta teacher who knew sign language, disliked court gossip, and allowed lessons to take place beneath tables when the princess felt safer there. The East Nursery was never rebuilt as a bedroom. At Elia's request, the walls were opened, the surveillance passage exposed, and the damaged mirror placed behind protective glass. The room became the listening gallery, a place where children could submit drawings, signs, written messages, or recorded testimony when spoken words felt impossible. The first month, the gallery received 11 reports from children across the kingdom. 3 revealed abuse adults had overlooked. 1 exposed a school director who had been stealing meal funds. 7 simply described fears that became smaller once someone answered them. Elia reviewed the gallery's symbols every week. She insisted the choice card include a 5th answer beyond yes, no, fear, and silence. Not yet. It became the most important answer in the room. My position as nursery maid ended the morning after the ceremony. Serafina called me into her study. No guards stood at the door. No accusation waited on the desk. Instead, 4 employment offers lay side by side. The Royal Academy offered my old scholarship and a public apology. The archive offered its senior restoration position. Lady Vera offered me a council research appointment with a salary large enough to make my father faint. The listening gallery offered no existing position because Elia had drawn one herself. Her design showed me holding a paintbrush in one hand and a key in the other. Beneath it, she had written Royal Listener. That title does not exist, I said. Most useful titles don't until someone needs the work, Serafina replied. What would I do? Direct the gallery, train palace staff to recognize nonverbal communication, restore Elia's drawings, and tell the crown when it has failed to notice something. The last duty may require a larger salary. Name it. I examined the documents. Each position included independent housing, its own budget, and protection from removal by the royal household. None required me to remain close to Serafina. She had removed the price from staying. Which offer do you want me to choose? I asked. The queen's hands rested at her sides. The one that belongs to your life, rather than mine. That is an irritating answer. It was difficult to prepare. I choose the gallery. Hope entered her face before she controlled it. Because Elia needs it, I continued. Because other children need it. Because I can restore art there, without asking the Academy to return something it should never have taken. Good reasons. I have another. Serafina waited. Circumstances have changed. Her alpha scent warmed the room, then stopped at the careful boundary she always maintained around me. You are no longer under my household authority, she said. I know. Your position cannot be removed by me. I read the contract. Your home, salary, and access to Elia do not depend on any personal relationship. Serafina. It was the first time I had used her name without the crown around it. She became silent. Ask me, I said. The most powerful alpha in the northern kingdoms looked more frightened than she had on the collapsing roof. May I court you? Yes. One word. No bell, no council, no law demanding it. Only my choice. Serafina came closer and stopped. May I kiss you? You ask a remarkable number of questions for a queen. I am trying to become qualified for the position. Which position? The suspicious one. I smiled. Yes. Her hand touched my cheek first. The contact was warm and almost careful enough to break my heart. I placed my palm against the back of her neck and closed the remaining distance myself. The kiss carried no alpha command and no omega surrender. It was soft, brief, and full of everything we had refused to take, while choice remained uncertain. When we separated, Serafina rested her forehead against mine. Findings? She whispered. Still suspicious. More evaluation required? Extensive evaluation. Elia opened the study door. We moved apart too late. She looked from the Queen to me, opened her sketchbook, and turned around a drawing she had apparently prepared in advance. Two women stood beneath a winter rose arbor. Between them, Elia wore a triumphant smile. Terrifyingly observant, I said. I warned you, Serafina replied. Our courtship became the least secret relationship in the palace. Elia scheduled our first dinner by placing 2 plates and 1 candle in Serafina's study. Lady Vera sent a legal memorandum explaining that a child could not authorize royal romance. Captain Thorne added a handwritten note asking whether that had ever stopped a princess. Serafina took me to a small restaurant beyond the palace district. She wore a plain coat and no crown. The owner recognized her immediately but pretended not to. We ate vegetable stew while musicians argued in the corner and rain struck the windows. The Queen burned her tongue because she refused to wait for the bread to cool. I learned that she hated pears, loved terrible mystery novels, and could negotiate a peace treaty, but not fold a fitted sheet. She learned that I sang badly while working, collected broken picture frames, and became unreasonable when anyone touched my brushes without permission. We disagreed often. Serafina wanted guards inside the listening gallery. I wanted them outside. We compromised with 2 unarmed officers trained by child advocates. I wanted every hidden passage destroyed. Elia wanted some preserved as emergency routes. Architects installed locks controlled from both sides. Love did not eliminate conflict. It changed whether conflict became punishment. 3 months after the ceremony, Serafina woke from a nightmare about the fire and ordered every candle removed from the palace. By breakfast, she recognized fear had made the decision for everyone. She reversed it herself and asked Elia what fire safety would help her feel secure. Elia requested visible alarms, unlocked exits, and no scented smoke during ceremonies. The palace adopted all 3. 4 months after the ceremony, I received an invitation to lecture at the academy that had dismissed me. I refused the ceremonial apology and requested a public review of every student removed under designation rules. 43 names were found. 29 returned to complete their training. The rest received compensation and ownership of the work they had created before removal. My father attended the first exhibition. He cried in front of a restored night-glass mural and apologized for teaching me that gratitude required silence. I forgave him because he finally understood what forgiveness was not. 6 months after the ceremony, Elia asked to visit her mother Alina's grave. She had refused every previous invitation. Serafina, Dr. Vale, and I accompanied her to the royal garden. The grave stood beneath a white tree, carved with the fox symbol of Alina's family. Elia placed the first hidden drawing against the stone. You came back for the truth, she said. Her voice shook. No one corrected it. I am sorry I was quiet. Serafina knelt beside her. You have nothing to be sorry for. Elia looked at the grave. I thought speaking hurt people. Someone hurt you and blamed your voice, I said. Those are not the same thing. She considered that. Then she drew 3 figures beside Alina's name. One was herself. One wore Serafina's black crown. The third held my paintbrush. Mama knew? She asked. Serafina understood the question. Would Alina have wanted Mara with us? Elia nodded. The Queen looked toward me. She would have wanted us to choose a life larger than the day we lost her, Serafina said. She would have warned Mara that I become dramatic in the rain. A serious flaw, I replied. Elia smiled. Grief remained with us. It no longer controlled every room it entered. 1 year after I found the drawing, the founding bell rang again. This time, it announced the opening of listening galleries in 12 cities. Children entered without medical referrals, royal permission, or proof that their fear was important enough. Each room offered paper, choice cards, sign interpreters, private advocates, and doors that could not be locked from the outside. Elia spoke at the opening because she wanted to. She used 7 sentences, 3 drawings, and 1 long silence while she decided how to end. No one interrupted. After the crowd left, Serafina brought me to the restored bell tower. The cracked bell remained above us, repaired but not polished enough to hide its history. "There is something I want to show you," she said. "If it is another secret passage, I resign." "It is not." She opened Alina's metal document case. Inside lay a blank sheet of night glass paper. "This belonged to her," Serafina said. "She used to draw plans for every future she wanted. Most were impossible. She considered that a reason to make them more detailed." "What do you want me to draw?" "Nothing I choose for you." The Queen placed the blank page between us. "I want to ask whether we may design the next part together." There was no ring hidden inside the case, no contract, no audience waiting below. "Is this a proposal?" I asked. "It is a question before a proposal. Ilia says I require too many stages." "Ilia is wise. She also drew the wedding clothes 6 weeks ago. Terrifyingly observant." Serafina smiled, then became serious. "Mara Ellison, will you build a home with us? Not as Elia's replacement mother, not as my subject, and not because either of us needs to be rescued. Will you build it as yourself?" I thought about the maid I had been, the restorer I still was, and the royal listener Elia had imagined before any law knew the title existed. "Yes," I said, "but I keep my own office." "Agreed. And no one touches my brushes. I will add it to the Constitution." "That seems excessive." "Years of royal training." I kissed her beneath the bell that had once represented everything Elia feared. Months later, it rang at our private bonding ceremony in the garden. Elia stood between us, holding the fox key on a silver ribbon. Lady Vera witnessed the vows. Captain Thorne guarded the gate. Dr. Vale cried openly and denied it afterward. Serafina asked, before placing the bond ring on my hand. I answered, before anyone could mistake my silence for uncertainty. Our life did not become perfect. Elia still had days when words hurt. I still became angry when nobles praised my discovery, as though one lucky moment had replaced years of training. Serafina still tried to solve fear with military schedules. We learned to notice. We learned to apologize. We learned that safety was not a promise made once but a practice repeated, without becoming a cage. The first hidden drawing remained inside the listening gallery. Visitors often stood before it and asked how 25 specialists could miss something so important. The answer was written beneath the frame in Elia's own hand. They were searching for a broken voice. Mara searched for what I was already saying. 25 specialists tried to give the Alpha Queen's daughter back her voice. The drawing taught us she had never lost it. The rest of us had simply failed to listen.